Hi and hello everyone. My name is Amanda. I'm coming here today, as you can see what the video says, to tell you a little bit about our journey for justice in Snowflake Baby that me and my husband decided to adopt, and gonna try to make it through this video without any interruptions and not a whole lot of crying and stuff like that. We decided to get the transfer. We adopted an embryo. Actually, we adopted two in hopes that one would stick. They were graded very good quality, and we went in September 18th, which is my 17-year-old son's birthday, and decided to transfer both of them. Well, if you know about IVF, you have to wait, at least 5 to 7 days to see if you have a positive pregnancy test. Well, on the 4th day I started testing, and on the 4th day I got a faint positive. So we were indeed pregnant. We did not know if both had stuck at the time or if only one had stuck, but we soon found out about 2 weeks later that one had stuck and was looking good, had a heartbeat, and everything was going great. I went to our 6-week checkup with our reproductive endocrinologist, and he there graduated us and told us that there is less than a 5% chance now that we are 6.5 weeks that we would miscarry, and congratulations. So from then on, I just seen my regular OBGYN, which was a lot closer because we had to travel out of town for our reproductive endocrinologist because, of the way that we were conceiving. Well, about, I guess, about every 2 to 3 weeks, I would see my doctor. She began taking me off of some medicines that I was on, my blood pressure medicine. I was diagnosed with anxiety probably 15 years ago. She proceeded to take me off of that medication and put me on a safer medication. I was also diagnosed as borderline diabetic, and she wanted to put me on insulin. Well, I started all the medication that she wanted me to go on that was safer for this pregnancy, and also the insulin. Leading up to, all these appointments and having to take the different medicines and stuff like that, I felt different physically. Because my body was trying, just became pregnant and trying to overcome all the withdrawal symptoms from these medicines that I had been on for 15 plus years. But I adapted to it because I knew that was best for my baby. We had multiple visits to the gynecologist. I also made baby bloom visits just to make sure the baby had a heartbeat and was growing well, that, everything was okay, because I had experienced loss before. So I just wanted to make sure, just a peace of mind type thing. And everything checked out well. That was the chant. Everything looks good. Everything looked, growing on time. Found out at 16 weeks, actually 14 weeks, from a genetic testing that also came back normal, that we were having a boy, and we were so happy about that. We did a big gender reveal and stuff like that on the, part that we were having a boy. And I had a 16-week anatomy scan scheduled for December 19th of 2019. This is how fresh all of this is. They did the scan. Everything in the scan measured right up to a T. 16 weeks 1 day, 16 weeks 2 days. The amniotic fluid around baby was fine. Everything, 10 toes, 10 fingers, pretty much checked out well. Well, they couldn't get a second picture of baby's heart. And she said, since I had an appointment with a like a higher up doctor that specializes in this, in like maternal pregnancies and stuff like that, like older women that get pregnant, that she would just let him do the ultrasound of his heart. Well, I never made it to that appointment, but my doctor did come in after the 16-week anatomy scan that I had done and said everything still looked fine, you know, the baby's heart rate, everything. Well, I did a little bit of Christmas shopping the day after this appointment, and I came home because I was just, you know, I had bought a Doppler during this time and I wanted to hear baby's heartbeat, and which I could always find it from 12 weeks on in the same place. You know, it took me like 3 seconds to find it. And I was having trouble finding it that night. And when I did find it, it was a lot of acceleration. I had never seen the baby's heart rate in the 180s, never, but it would go from like 140 to 180 in a matter of seconds. So I was a little concerned that night about that, but I said, well, maybe because, you know, I drank a cup of coffee or something like that, that it was just the caffeine running through my body. Well, the next morning, I do the usual, put the Doppler, find baby's heartbeat, and I couldn't find nothing. And I told myself, well, you know, sometimes these things aren't 100%, even though, you know, it's supposed to be a hospital grade Doppler and, you know, a good one at that. And I've always been able to find it. I would just toss it up to a fluke and try to find it later because I had some things to do that morning. Well, that evening I couldn't find it again as well. I decided that the next morning, me and my husband would go to the ER if we could not find it. And that's where we ended up, was at the ER. It was just, by that point, I just knew that something was wrong. It's like a mother's intuition, you just know. And we got into the emergency room. They ordered an ultrasound. 10 minutes after, you know, we were there, the ultrasound tech comes in, and I knew as soon as she put the wand on my belly, the way that the baby was laying, that something had happened, that he was gone. And she would measure over his heart to try to find, you know, the heartbeat, if there was any rhythm or anything like that, and it was just a gray straight line straight across. And it's funny because I knew at the time that he was gone, but I didn't cry until she left the room. We just looked at each other and we knew at that time that what we suspected was right. And it's one of the hardest things you have to experience, especially wanting to have another baby so bad and going through all the fertility treatments and, you know, the shots and the hormones and stuff to keep your body thinking, you know, it's pregnant all along. It's hard. It's very hard and it's very expensive, but the money here is not an option. I mean, I would have paid it over again if I knew I'd had a healthy baby. So after that, the doctor came in. Actually, it was just a PA at the point because they were so heavily burdened in labor and delivery, as the nurse said, that I could either go home and try to pass the baby naturally, or I could call my doctor Monday morning, being this was Saturday, set up an appointment for an induction. At that time, I told her I would just, call for an appointment Monday morning to see my doctor. Monday morning came, and she said, basically the same things. I could try. She didn't recommend me try to pass it on my own. She said that could take up to weeks, and my body could, get an infection that I would have to fight, and I would be even more sick, and so on and so on. So I decided I would wait until after Christmas, being that this was the day before Christmas. I said, please just let me have a happy moment with my family at Christmas and not be in the hospital delivering a demised baby. I don't want to remember that 2019 Christmas. So she agreed and had a wonderful Christmas with my family. Tried to not bring it up to make everybody's sorrow just be there. Just try to have an eventful Christmas. Everybody be happy and celebrate and eat good and rejoice. Well, I went the day after Christmas for my scheduled induction, and the lady that had answered the door up in labor and delivery told me that they were very busy. They had no room for me right now, and pretty much set me in a triage room for I don't know how long. And she told me she don't know how long it's going to be for someone to come in here and start the process. Well, I'm pretty much an advocate for myself. That was a no-no from the beginning. Do you realize what I just went through? And I understand you're busy and you have a lot going on, but take it a little bit differently than how you just took it. It's like, I'm not here. You don't have time for me. Sit in this room until we're able to get to you. And when we get to you, we'll put you in a room. I said, you know what? I kindly walked up to the certain nurse's station. I said, I'm not in dire need today. I said, I understand y'all are busy. Y'all are full house. Everybody wants to have their baby on Christmas. I'll come back tomorrow. So I called my doctor, and she said that was fine. So this had been 4 days since the baby had passed. So I went back the next day at 2 p.m. We had arranged on a time to come in, and things went a little bit differently. They were definitely not as full and chaotic up there in labor and delivery. I actually was put in a room straight away. And of course you have to change into a gown. They do your blood, they do your vitals, all that good stuff. Pretty much let you know exactly what's going to happen step by step. Well, my nurse comes in and she's taking my blood and having a hard time finding an IV on Amanda is just one of those things. But yeah, after being pricked about 5 times, we finally got an IV in and had my fluids going, and she proceeded to insert, I think it's 600 milligrams of the Cytotec. That's a crazy feeling, knowing that what you're fixing to do at that time, even though I knew my baby had already gone, was abort my baby. They call it a form of induction under 20 weeks, where they use these pills. Really, I had no choice. I didn't want a DNC because I thought that was either, you know, even a more worse form of letting go. So I at least wanted to see, you know, what God had gave me, what God allowed me to create before, you know, letting him go. And I started cramping probably about an hour and a half into the cytotec. My anxiety was so high. I can remember just shaking the whole time I was on the bed, shaking, and I was like, why am I shaking? And she's like, yeah, your adrenaline will run. I'm like, yeah, it sure will, you know. And just trying to process in my mind all this stuff that I'm doing to my body, semi-unnaturally, synthetically, you know, and at the same time trying to grieve emotionally and physically after all this happens. You know, it's a process. It's not the safest thing, you know. And that scares me because, like I said, I deal with the anxiety part of things, the what ifs, and I hate being in the hospital. I hate getting my blood pressure. Every time I get my blood pressure checked, you know, it's through the roof because I have anxiety and it's induced. My hypertension is automatically induced. So everybody thinks, oh, our blood pressure, you know, send her to the wherever. But knowing that if I calm down, you know, it'll just be a normal blood pressure. But anywho, an hour and a half after that, I had started getting contractions, pretty regular. They weren't too bad. Like I said, my anxiety was worse. And, you know, I could feel like things kind of pulling away from my inner belly, like kind of like my placenta separating, if you will, like just like stretching and pinching and bubbling and stuff like that. And I finally had asked for some medicine to calm my nerves down after about 4.5 hours of this, because they were fixing to insert some more cytotec because I had not dilated yet. So they proceeded to give me, I believe it was some Stadol, and I mean, it was absolutely nothing. Like, I don't even think they took it. I did not feel absolutely nothing. But it's right after that, she inserted the other cytotec, and I tell you, not even 30 minutes after she inserted the second round of cytotec, my water broke. And it's weird because it's not the amount of water that you expected in a normal delivery. You know, it was such a little amount of water. I mean, it probably was all of 2 cups of water. And I called her in. She's like, yep, that was your water. And, you know, finally I was dilated to like 3. And I knew that 3 would probably, you know, be enough for the baby to come on ahead and come out. So she had just left the room, and I told my husband, I said, I feel, you know, like pushing. I feel something, you know, coming out down there. And he pushed the button again. And I was like, there's baby, you know, like not even 3 minutes later. And the baby had come out, and she come to confirm that. And I didn't look down at first because I wasn't mentally prepared for what I was going to see. I had looked up 16-week babies online, and I was prepared for those. But you never know, being that my baby had already been gone for 4, almost 5 days, and the circumstance as to why he died, even though everything came back perfectly normal genetically, you still never know what you're gonna see. So she got the baby, cleaned him up, and put a blanket on my chest and put the baby on me.